everybody. It's really lovely to see so many of you here. I hope you can all see the slides okay. Weird things are happening with my slideshow. Every time I try and clear the window to admit people, it puts my slides on. So Holly, I don't know if you can help me with that. I can't see my own slides because of the window that says admit, and when I close that, it moves my slides.
Bear with me, Janie. I'm just looking into that now for you.
And I've now lost my slides. That's because Holly, you started sharing. Sorry, everybody. I'll talk to you briefly while Holly's doing magic, technical magic in the background. So the main thing that I want to say to you is that I don't want you to worry. Some of you will be really go-getting, motivated, experienced networkers for whom a careers fair holds no fear whatsoever. And some of you might be feeling quite anxious about doing things online. So I'm here to reassure you that it's really not as scary as it might feel before you do it. It's no more scary than sitting in the session you're in now. And I think after today, you will be able to hopefully have some really good resources for preparing. You have a good idea of some very concrete things you can do ahead, and you'll have a good idea of how to behave on the day. So I'm going to try and share my screen again, and we will see if this works. Right. Holly, I'm assuming that you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see the screen.
Okay, good. Let's carry on, everybody. If you haven't got your mic on mute, please put it on mute, because I can hear all sorts of interesting lunch and movement sounds in the background. Okay, so by the end of the short session today, this is what's going to hopefully will be the case. You will feel a really strong understanding of how you can prepare effectively, so things you can do before the fair. You'll have some really concrete ideas of how to make the most of the fair on the day. And as well, you'll be knowing how to follow up afterwards. I'll give you a whole series of downloadable resources that you can use. And then when I finish speaking, Holly's going to take you through what it will look like on the day. Here's some things that you can do ahead of the day. As I said just now, we really hope that you're not too worried about it. All the employers who come along to the fair, so whether that's Wednesday or Thursday, are there because they're really interested in University of Surrey students and graduates. So they actively want to engage with you. So it's not like you have to go and persuade them to talk to you or ask them for some material that they've set up because they really want to see you. So that should be reassuring. I think one of the main things that you can do is to look at the list on Pathfinder of who is attending the fair. Look at the ones that you know you want to speak to already and see what you can find out in advance. Because if time, for example, is a bit pressured on the day, say there's lots of students asking questions, it's really good not to waste that time asking things you could have found out ahead of time. So if a particular company interests you, have a look at the website, look at the company values, look at the schemes they offer, and then you're one step ahead when you talk to them. On top of that, I think it's really valuable to have your CV in really good shape. Now, there are hundreds of you in the presentation today. There are thousands of Surrey students. So not everybody, for example, could go online after this webinar and book a CV appointment. Some of you will be able to, but there's so much you can do by yourself. So I'm going to put at the resource slide in a minute a link to a recording I made of how you get your CV into shape. Oh no, it's a recording my colleague Vicky made, and then I will give you a recording of using LinkedIn. So you'll be able to watch a presentation and go back and re-watch it on how you make a really good CV, and then I'm going to give you links to how you can, download a document on that as well as CV. I think it's really important to have a good LinkedIn profile. So it needs to be up to date, it needs to be clear about what you're looking for, it needs to have all the information. And as I said, there'll be a presentation that you can watch on that. Those were things that you could do before the day. So this is when you're actually going to the fair. So on a Wednesday or Thursday or both days. Really early on the day. So I just wanted to reassure you, even though it says the fair's running from 10 to 4, you don't have to sit at your computer for 6 hours. But on the day, find out who's doing what when. Now, because companies are changing all the time what they're uploading and maybe changing their plans or changing their personnel, some of that won't be fixed maybe until the morning. So have a look and see, what companies am I interested in? What are they doing when? So for example, they might be giving a general presentation, and then there might be individual drop-in sessions you can book, or they might be running a repeat loop of a presentation, or they might have a slot where you can be in small groups talking to somebody who's already done the job. There's many different ways they could do it. They might be having a panel discussion that you listen in on and can ask questions, but it's really good for you to be as organised as you can be, just so that you know what's happening when, because it would be a shame if you miss something just through not spotting it. So first thing, have a really clear look at what's happening when. And then try and be as flexible as you can. As I said, some of them will be doing things in one way, and then you'll go to the next company and it will be something quite different. So the more all your adaptability and resilience can stand you in good stead, the better you'll feel, so that you're not confused by the changes. I would recommend you to dress relatively smartly. You absolutely don't have to put a suit and tie on, but I wouldn't go to the fair in your pajamas. I would be wearing, as you know, just look professional. So it can be smart casual, it can even just be quite casual, but professional looking. I mentioned body language because even if you're just sitting listening, if there's any chance that you might want to interact with people, the more you can have an open and relaxed posture. So you sit well back in your chair if you're sitting, both feet on the ground, shoulders back and down, sit or stand tall, and you can absolutely put your laptop or your device up high and stand when you're at the fair. The more relaxed you are in your body, the more confident you come across, and the more, if you're a nervous person, that signals to your brain, this is not a situation of danger or threat, everything is fine, and it helps you articulate your thinking if you should be speaking. Another key thing I really want you to do is to make the most of all the people at the fair. So even if you have a really clear idea of your career path, pick one or two people outside your field to talk to. And if you don't know what you're doing, just talk to as many people as you can and go and drop into as many stands as you can, because your career thinking, if you plan in great detail, sometimes you miss an opportunity. So for example, if you're interested in HR, most companies have an HR department. If you're interested in problem solving, that can be something you can do in lots of places. So as much as you can, just experiment, see what's out there, because a lot of connections happen through serendipity and happenstance. So it might be something that you discover that you're really interested in that you didn't know about before. So do be interested in a lot of different stands. When you're talking to an employer at the fair, so that might be a video call that they give back to you because you've made an appointment with them, might be a live webinar like we're doing now where they ask you to have video on. It's really good to smile. I hope you can tell that I'm smiling. I'm a very smiley person. If you find smiling difficult, you can practice in the mirror, but it really can relax your brain and your body, and it can help the employer realize that you're really engaged. Don't forget to listen if they're asking you a question. If you're not sure what they said, it's perfectly okay to ask them to repeat. And remember to breathe. So deep breathing into your stomach will really help. And another really important thing for careers fairs, sometimes they might be engaging with you through chat. If that's the case, be as professional and courteous as you would if you were speaking to them face to face. So don't come over too abrupt, don't be too demanding, always say please and thank you. Try and use the best English that you can. I don't want to worry. I mean, simple English is fine, but it needs to be clear and professional. So that's some of the things that you can do on the day, and in a minute Hollie will talk to you about the mechanics of the day. And I've just got at the bottom there, I don't know if it's clear on your screen, don't multitask. It's very tempting when you're in a webinar to be checking your phone or to be doing something in the background. Give it your full attention, because in some cases this is an employer who might have live placements or graduate jobs you can apply for, so you really want to be giving it your best shot. So focus on one thing at a time. So afterwards, it's really good to follow up. So even if you haven't said, I'll email you, if you spoke to somebody, you have a name, a named contact, it's a really good thing just to practice your networking, to send them a thank you email for their time and say it was really interesting to learn more about the company. Similarly, if you connect with somebody on LinkedIn, please, please, please add a message that says where you met them, why it would be good to connect. I get lots of requests to connect on LinkedIn, and it doesn't leave me a good impression if somebody hasn't said where or why or how they're asking to connect. So, and the next thing is, say, for example, you meet somebody at the fair and there's a great job coming up and you think, oh, that's something I'm definitely going to apply for. Make the most of our appointment system, because it would be really helpful if somebody, a second pair of eyes, gets a chance, especially if it's a job that you're absolutely passionate about, to double check that you have communicated your skills and your experience as well as you think you can when you're sending that application. Even, you know, your brain thinks that you've said what you intended to say, but sometimes it's not coming over on the page. So you can use Pathfinder to book a variety of appointments, whether that's a quick CV check, a conversation with the placements team, a careers appointment with somebody like me, which would be half an hour longer discussion, or a LinkedIn check. You can book all of those via Pathfinder. So here are some of the resources that I'm going to leave in the slides for you that you can look at later. So one of the really good things that's happening this week is the Bright Network are running a free How to Network session online. You can all book on that if you want to, and the link's in there. You can also find it in the events pages in Pathfinder. As I said, we've done a recording of a CV presentation for you, and there's one with me on using LinkedIn. And there's a couple of articles there on why a face-to-face fair might be different to a virtual one and how you can stand out to employers. And I put a link there to our career information page where you can find leaflets on a variety of things. So on the day, careers advisors like me are manning a virtual stand. We'll be in a Zoom room. You can pop in and ask us a quick question. The placements team are also manning a stand. And as I said before, if you've got queries or you need to book, then use Pathfinder. Holly, that is the end of my presentation. So I will stop sharing if I can.
Great, thanks, Janie.
In fact, there you go, stop presenting. Hopefully you'll get the screen back.
Super. So what I'm going to take you through now is the walkthrough of the autumn fair itself. So, Janie, can you see my screen?
I can, Holly, yeah.
Super. Okay, guys, so we have tried to make the virtual fair as simple and as straightforward as possible for you. So we will be using the Surrey Pathfinder platform for you. All of our employers will have virtual stands there, and I'm going to very quickly walk you through the different ways that you can actually connect with employers on the day. Now, the first thing to note is it's really important for the virtual fair for you to have a booking. Okay, we will be able to take bookings on the day, but where possible, please do try to book in advance. To access the fair, you will go to your events where you book on, and you will simply click on the title of the booked event. Okay. Now, this is a test event, so what I will do once I've taken you through this is actually show you the live event, so you can actually see what employers are booked on to the actual event now. But what you can see if I scroll down here is we have an overview of the event description, the timings that it's on, and as Janie said, you don't need to sit there for the full 6 hours of the fair. We would encourage you to pop in and out of the fair at various times, you know, in around your lectures or your seminars. If you speak to someone and then you think a little while later, oh, I wish I'd asked that question, and it's still within the time frame of the fair, feel free to pop back in and speak to the employer. Okay. We will be providing you with a fair guide, and if you click on this, it will open in a new tab. This is last year's as an example for you, so you won't have this page, which shows the layout of the marquee, because we're not in a marquee this year. However, what we are doing is we are pulling together an information page that looks very similar to this, that will have the name of the organisation, the degrees that they recruit from, if they offer PhD roles or placement roles, and also instead of a stand number, we're actually going to give you an interesting fact about that employer this year. So if you're stuck as to what to ask them, consider thinking about the interesting fact that they've given and maybe get their take on it. Now, with the fair guide open in this tab, you can either keep it open and click on the event details tab that will take you back to the virtual fair environment, keeping the guide open for you to refer back to. Alternatively, you can actually close this tab, but you'll see that you can still access the fair guide here. So don't worry, it will be there at all times for you. What we're also going to have in the description up here for you is also a short walkthrough of the platform. So if you get in a pickle in the day or anything you're not sure of, you will have access to a video that will take you through how to use the platform again. Okay. So if we scroll down, you'll see we've got a few employers booked on to this fair. You'll see that it's live because they've got this red live image up here. All employers will have a tile like this, and each of the tiles will have their name and their logo on. Now, there's a couple of ways which you can interact with the employers on the day. The first is, if you know them and you know that you want to speak to them, click on the virtual stand link. This will open a pop-up tab that will tell you what to expect from that stand. So this is what Janie was referring to with regards to making a note of this information. Some of them might say that your microphone and video will be enabled like this one does, and they would encourage you to use, that to chat to them. Others might ask for audio and video to be off and to use the chat functionality. It really is down to every single employer as to how they want to manage this themselves. Some of them may even have a schedule of events through the day where they're running a presentation on the company every hour or every half hour. So if you pop into a stand and this pops up and you realise that you've missed the presentation by 5 minutes, make a note of that employer and then go back to them at a later time. To join the stand, you would literally click here on virtual stand, and that will open up their virtual meeting. Okay, I'm not going to do it now because actually there isn't a virtual meeting behind there for us to wave at anybody. But what you'll see is down in this corner here, if I hover over this, it will take you to a WebEx location. Now, some of the employers might be using WebEx, others might be using MS Teams like we are now, and some might be using Zoom. So make sure that you are fairly comfortable and know where the chat functionality is on all of those platforms. Okay. So once you've spoken to someone in their virtual stand and you've closed that window, you would come back to this page. Now, to leave this information page, you would literally click the X here, and then you're back in the virtual fair environment and able to chat to someone else. Now, what do you do if you come across a company that you don't necessarily know very much about? So, for example, nuclear graduates. Well, the second way you can engage with an employer is to click Find Out More. This will pop up some information about that graduate employer, what they do, what they might have on offer. From here, you can either go, yes, I like the sound of that, let's talk to them, and click through to their virtual stand. Alternatively, you can actually click View Full Profile, and this will open up their Surrey Pathfinder profile where you'll have access to more information. You'll be able to see what events they've got booked or any that might be upcoming that you may wish to book onto. And likewise, you can see all of their opportunities. Now, this is a really good thing for you guys as students because it means that what you can do is you can actually look in real time at the roles that they have available and submit an application if you wanted to. So to look at the opportunities, you would simply click on the opportunity title and all of the information will come up. Now, if you're ready to apply, then you can apply straight away. Alternatively, and what I think Janie and I would recommend here is to save the opportunity, and then you can go back to that after the fair when you've got the time and the opportunity to tailor your CV and your application, and then apply then. Okay. To go back to the main Pathfinder page for this company, you would just click Previous, and it hasn't, but it should take you back to the employer page. And then to get back to the fair, you would simply click the Close button on that tab, and you are back in the main fair environment again. Okay, so it's very simple, easy to use platform for you guys in terms of being able to find out more about a company, actually click through to the virtual stand. I am now just going to stop sharing for a second and take you into the actual careers fair page. Bear with me 1 second while I pull it up, so I can show you who we have booked on so far for the careers fair. And this is a really good tip for you guys is if you're booked in, we would recommend you actually looking at this beforehand so that you can, bear with me 1 second, I'm just having a few technical issues my end. But we would recommend that you do look at this ahead of the event so you can see who is booked on the day, who you might want to speak to, etc. Okay. Just 1 second. It's always slightly difficult when you do these live, isn't it, Janie? There's always something that doesn't quite go right.
It's part of the joy of doing things remotely. I hope everybody's understanding. I'm fielding some questions in the chat, Holly, and I'll be asking you one particular one at the end. So there'll be some things you can help us with at the end. Let me know if you want me to do anything.
No. Can you see my page?
I can. That's looking good.
Okay. So guys, what I have now done is I have logged in into Surrey Pathfinder out of the test system and actually into the live system. So what I'm going to show you now is what you guys can do ahead of the fair in order to prepare. So Janie mentioned it was good to have a view of who was there, who you might be able to speak to on the day, etc. So as you'll see, I am now logged in as a student. I have booked onto the fair, and you can see here that I am booked on. Now, ahead of the day, if I go to the event, just a minute while it loads. So what I can do is if I scroll down, I can watch the walkthrough video again on the platform if I wanted to. And we are just in the process today of uploading the fair guide as well. But you can actually see these are all of the employers that are currently booked on to attend the 7th of October. Now, it's not live because you can't see the red live button up here. Instead, it's grayed out. But what you can do is you can click on find out more. So let's find one here, PepsiCo. And you can read a little bit about them, what they do, and you can also click through to their view full profile, which will open in Surrey Pathfinder, and it will give you more information about them, the link to their company website, and you can also see the events that they're attending and also the 10 most recent opportunities from this employer as well. So this was all really good information to help you guys to prepare for the main fair. Don't worry if you click in and you can't click on virtual stand, it just means that it's not open yet. Okay. The fair will open dead on 10 o'clock on the 7th and the 8th. So please don't log in before then and try and click on anything because it won't work. But do take the time to look at who is attending beforehand, find out more about them, look at their Surrey Pathfinder profiles, and just to help you sort of prepare that way. So I think that's it for my walkthrough, Janie. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add before we head over to questions.
No, I just think that's really reassuring that even though it's not live, you can see all the amazing people there. And you know, when I was talking about thinking a little bit outside of what you've kind of predetermined for yourself, scroll down there and think, wonder who they are, wonder what they do. Because I think hidden behind the names will be all sorts of things. It's really, I'm on a campaign to stop people asking children when they grow up, because they will shape their future by what they've already seen. And there's so much out there that you've never seen or stumbled across. So a fair is a great way to get into that. So I think it's looking really good.
Absolutely, and I would completely echo that, guys. I mean, when I was little, I was going to be an archaeologist, up to my arms in mud, digging up bones, and here I am now working at the University of Surrey after 12 years of being a graduate employment manager within a number of different industries. So, you know, I never thought that I would go into recruitment or development programs. or anything like that. But when I went to a careers fair, you know, I got speaking to someone who sort of said, have you considered this? You get to work with students and help guide them and that sort of thing. And that's how I ended up where I am. So I would absolutely echo, you know, going to the careers fair, trying to talk to as many different companies as possible.
So, Michelle, are you ready for a question? I'm Michelle. It's Michelle asked the question. Holly, I'm going to ask you the question that Michelle asked. Is that okay?
Yeah,
so Michelle wants to know if when you click on that button that says virtual stand, does it catapult you straight into talking to a representative? Now, I said, depends what the company has done, but I thought it would be really helpful for everybody to hear. I think that's the kind of nerve-wracking thing. You don't know what's the other side of the button.
Absolutely. So first things first, if you click on that join virtual stand on the tile, it will open up that page first of all to give you a bit of guidance on what to expect. Now, most of our employers, we have requested that they put a waiting room on, which is very similar to what you guys were met with when you joined the session today. And they would be admitting you periodically. Others, for one, I know that there is definitely one company that if you click on it, it is just going to take you straight in. But don't worry, because if they are doing that, they have set up their meeting room so that your camera and your audio is muted. But do take do read that information on that initial tile sort of pop up very closely, because that will tell you what to expect on each stand. So it could be that, you know, they do say on there that actually you'll come straight into the meeting. It could say on there that you'll be held in a waiting room. So do take note of that information.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Now I've gone through and I can see lots of people have put their student numbers in there, which is great. If you haven't, could you paste it in the chat just so we can mark you as that you attended. Dawn, you asked if the session is going to be uploaded to Surrey Learn. I'm not sure where it's going to live, but you will definitely be able to re-watch the session again, and I will be sending Holly my slides so that you've got the link. I also popped the links in there. If there are any other questions that you would like to ask, do please pop them in the chat box, because we are here and we've got a few more minutes, so whatever you like.
Just to echo what Janie said there, yes, we absolutely will be sharing this recording. We'll also be sharing Janie's slides, and I will also be sharing with you the link to the walkthrough video as well, so that you have all of these different opportunities to familiarise yourself with the platform ahead of actually attending on the day.
It's a pleasure, Hassan. We really enjoy talking to students. So I think that the unusual situation in which everybody's found themselves has meant that you're probably better prepared for a virtual fair. But actually, when you look online, you'll find that companies have been doing virtual fairs for years. And some big companies, they choose to think, rather than me going off to campus in normal times, I'm going to do a virtual fair anyway, and then people from all around the world can come. So I think you'll be well prepared in terms of your online interactions that you've already done. And I think that you will find that there's a lot more access to things that you can have. So Lauren, the date of the actual fair, we've got 2 days, 7th and 8th, so Wednesday and Thursday this week. Thursday is more of a STEM focus, but if you are a STEMmy person, a scientist of any sort, or a data person, or a mathematician, or an engineer, please check Wednesday as well, because we've got employers who couldn't, for example, make Thursday, but might well have jobs for you.
Absolutely.
Make sure anything else you want to add?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. So although Thursday has a bit more of a STEM slant, so it's a lot more engineering, science and technology companies, some of them couldn't make the Thursday, so please do also book on or have a look at the very least on the Wednesday as well. And it could be that you actually attend both days, which would be fab. The only other insider bit of knowledge I'm going to give you from my work working with employers is that they are just as nervous about this virtual event as you are. Okay, for many of them, it will be their first time using, you know, sort of this platform to speak to people. So, you know, just go in there, try and be yourselves, professional, but be yourselves. And, you know, don't worry if you come across any technical difficulties. They've probably experienced them themselves recently too.
Tegan is asking where the CD recording will be put. I've linked it with a hyperlink in the slides, Tegan, and so that'll be really clear. But you can also just email me directly if for some reason you can't access it, and I'll send you the link. It's in Panopto, so you'll get to it through Sorry then.
Okay, Nicholas, I see that you've given me a question on, are there significantly less opportunities this year because of COVID? The answer is no. Yes, there are certain employers and certain sectors that maybe aren't recruiting as much as they have done. Most notably, these tend to be in the transport sort of industry. So, for example, First Group, who does a lot of buses and trains, they're not going to be present this year because they've unfortunately, due to COVID, had to put a halt on recruitment. However, there are many, many other opportunities out there in a variety of other different sectors. In fact, we've actually seen an increase in placement opportunities coming through this year compared to last year. So fear not, there will be roles out there for everyone.
So I have an interesting question from Daniel, who says, what is the ultimate purpose of the fair? Does it help with applications, or is it more about finding out what a company does? So I'll give you my slant, Daniel, and then we'll let Hollie say what she wants. I think it's just your chance to have access to employers that you might not have otherwise thought of. So it does both things. Anybody at the fair, I think, as Hollie will correct me if I'm wrong, either has taken on or is taking on Surrey graduates and has actual live vacancies. So whether you're looking for a placement, whether that's as a postgrad or an undergrad, or whether you're in your final year and you're looking for a graduate job, you can access opportunities directly. In addition to which, they're out there to kind of broadcast their brand, and you're in the game to understand what the labour market looks like. And as I said, wandering around thinking, oh, there is a data science job in that company that actually spends most of its time making chocolate. I hadn't realised, there's lots and lots of different ways. Hollie, I'm going to let you say anything you want about that. But I also noticed that Sarah Agosu has got her hand up, and I don't know how to deal with hands up, so I'll let you do that one in a minute.
Okay, so I would literally echo Janie again there. It's a bit of both. So I would primarily think of this as your opportunity to network with and speak to as many different employers as you can throughout the day. Find out a little bit more about what they do. I mean, I was speaking to L'Oreal the other day, and I was surprised to learn that they have a technology program. I wouldn't have put L'Oreal in the technology space. So it really is a great opportunity for you to find out the sort of variety of different type of roles out there. Now, if you're speaking to someone and you think, yes, I want to make an application, then it also will be a great help for you in terms of making that application, because you can ask them questions such as, what do you look for in your applications? What's going to make me stand out? How, if they've got alumni on their stands, because some of them may bring some ex-Surrey alumni with them. Ask them about their career journey, find out from them what the company values and culture are, and reference those in your cover letter and your application if you're able to. So it really is a bit of both worlds, really.
Okay, thanks for that, Hollie. I've got several interesting questions, so we'll scoot through them quickly.
Okay.
Julia wanted to know, are we going to be meeting recruiters or employees, or who on the stand?
So it's going to be a bit of both. So us recruiters do love to get involved in a bit of a careers fair. We love chatting to students and, finding out about your sort of background, your aspirations, where you think you might want to go. But you'll also get the opportunity to speak to employers who are actually doing the job as well. Most employers will make sure that they have a Q&A session with some of their current graduates. I know quite a few of our employers that are booked on will be running those sessions throughout the day. So again, take note of that virtual stand information when it pops up to see when that is.
Thank you very much. John would like to know, what about if he's really interested in specialised interests companies that are not at the fair? So for example, the space industry, and I know this is a year-old thing, we can't do every bespoke thing. So from my point of view as an advisor, I know your department, John, will have probably got an industrial advisory board and has probably got direct connections that are sort of limited interest for the vast numbers that we have to cater for at the fair. But it may well be that Hollie's got something else to say that I'm not thinking about.
Yeah, so I'd also point you in the direction of like Target Jobs. So that sort of job board, I know that they do have specialised hubs. Even just a Google search, Google search careers in the space industry in the UK, and a number of employers will come up. We do have a number of employers. It is a very small number coming to the fair that might have some space related jobs, so I wouldn't say completely rule the fair out, because you can't see anyone there who specifically stands out as being in the space industry. I know that DSTL do potentially at times get involved in that area, and you know, if you wanted to work on like telemetry or anything like that, then actually speaking to AWE might also be of interest. Although it's not putting people into space, it's something slightly different. There is still an element of space work involved there.
I'd also recommend for anybody who's STEMmy to look at GradCracker, and I would also say, if you're thinking, I don't know how to find opportunities in my area, then book a careers appointment, and then somebody like me, who would be your dedicated careers advisor for the department, would be able to go into questions with you. Okay, Jordan's got an interesting question. Would having a terrible webcam harm your impression to the employers? What do you think, Hollie?
I don't think so at all. No. I think that employers with this very quick and very sudden change to this digital and virtual way of working, I think employers are very aware that, you know, we're not all going to be whizzy and 100%, you know, perfect on webcam or anything else at the moment. And like I said earlier, most of the stands will probably actually ask you to not have your video on. It will just help with the bandwidth piece. So please don't worry about that at all. If you are having technical difficulties when you're speaking to an employer, feel free to say to them, I'm really sorry, I'm just having some technical difficulties. They'll completely understand, and it won't be held against you at all.
Okay, that's really useful. I can't see any more questions. I can't see if Sarah's still got her hand up, but if you have got a question that we didn't get to your hand, please pop it in the chat. But I'm really, you know, about, for example, webcams, I'd reassure you that they're really understanding. And if it gets to the stage when you've got an interview that you're really anxious about, for example, then come and talk to the careers team, because it may be that we can lend you equipment or we can book you a room, because there is some stuff still happening face-to-face on campus. Abdul, can I have a one-to-one with employers? Depends on the employer, as Hollie said. So some of them will be really keen. They'll have a team of people waiting, and they'll have individual chat rooms, and you can talk directly to them. Others, there's just a recorded presentation, and then it might be that there's a discussion, or it might be that it's done in the chat. So until you can get behind the details of the stand, you won't know, but I would think you will definitely be able to talk face to face with employers, definitely. Okay, Musa, do we need to ask the companies for sponsorship even though we are eligible for the 2-year work visa? I think it's not something I would get into at the careers fair. Immigration and visa questions can get quite complicated. You should be eligible for the 2-year post-study work visa. So if anybody says, have you got the right to work in the UK, then the answer is yes. So I would concentrate more on asking them, what is it that makes a strong and successful applicant? What kind of experience do you look for? What are you most excited about working for this company? That's something I didn't cover, actually, is have some questions for when you talk to the employers. So ask them what they like about working there, because you want to learn about the company. Daniel was asking earlier, what's the point of the fair? Finding out what they're doing is a really, really valuable thing. Can you get a part-time virtual job, Polra? Probably. I would say either email me directly and I'll answer your question. But if you look on Pathfinder, it's got lots of jobs, uni temps as well. A lot of things are being done remotely. So the landscape's shifting all the time, but I think the answer is definite. Okay, questions coming thick and fast. We're going to race through them. Right. Are you ready, Hollie?
Yes.
Actually, I've said that. I'm going to ask John, the mechanics of booking and going to an appointment with Study Pathfinder. Yes, they're almost all virtual. You book them through Pathfinder unless you've graduated, in which case you have to email to book. I would do an appointment with you if you were in my departments, just like this. We would one-to-one, face-to-face, probably on Teams. If it's a LinkedIn check, it's also virtual. If it's a quick query, it's also virtual. The placements team are doing some face-to-face CV checks. Actually, I think the interaction from the privacy of your own room can be really good. So you've still got, we've run appointments all summer long, and they've been really busy. Okay, Tegan, this is a really good question. I'm glad you asked it. Some of the companies just say for graduates. Does this mean they don't do placements? What they mean is we take on people who've got a degree. So I would say if they're not saying we've got placements, doesn't mean that they don't do placements. It might mean that they don't do placements, but I always encourage students to say to companies, have you ever thought of taking on a placement student? These are the kinds of projects I could work on. So don't assume. It just might be that they haven't advertised them. It may mean that they've got one and they don't want to make a big deal in case they get 20,000 applications. But basically, to apply for a graduate role, you don't already have to have your degree. It means that by the time you start, you have your degree. Approaching employers, Aditya wants to know, and I'm not going to answer visa sponsorship questions. I'm afraid it just gets too complicated. You can email the careers address and somebody will pass the query on to me. But Aditya wants to know, Hollie, how to approach employers. So in addition to what we've said already, what would you say?
So I think we've covered it all. I mean, from an employer point of view, what I look for at careers fairs or virtually is students who have interesting questions about, you know, not just what does the company do, because if you're coming over to speak to me and say, oh, what does your company do? It kind of shows that you're not really very prepared. So what I would suggest is, you know, finding out an interesting fact about that company, which we will provide you with on the fair guide, or even you know, just reading a bit about them and coming over to them and saying, oh, I noticed that you've got this role in human resources. Can you tell me what your program entails? That shows them that you've done a little bit of research, you're interested in them, and it's a good opening sort of segue to then asking them about the company culture, why they work there, and what they say would be the best thing about working there. Just with regards to which companies provide sponsorship or placements, we will also
put a link in for that.
That's okay. We will also provide that on the fair guide as well. So where I showed you at the beginning where that link is for the fair guide, always make sure that you're referring back to that, or even keep it open in a separate tab, and you'll be able to see of all the employers that are there over the 2 days, which are able to sponsor any visas and which are also looking to recruit placement students as well.
Fantastic. Paula now wants to know, as a postgrad student, can you get a graduate job alongside your studies? Graduate job tends to mean full-time job. Postgraduate studies are a full-time job. So unless they're saying we've got a very limited or flexi or short-term or holiday placement, then you could absolutely do that alongside your studies. But your, you know, guidelines are supposed to be that you don't work more than 20 hours a week in paid employment while you're studying. I think that would be even quite hard when you're a postgrad. So graduate job tends to mean full-time. So it's usually something that you do when you've completed your studies. And Fahim has asked, Hollie, where can he rewatch this? Can you remind us?
Yep, so we will be sharing it across all of the different platforms. So we will make sure that it is available on Surrey Learn. We'll also put it onto My Surrey for you and everything else as well. But don't worry, we will send you out full sort of communications on that through the employability social media links.
Okay, great. I think that's all the companies that I can see. Musa did mention that some companies might be a licensed sponsor and can't sponsor for a particular role, but it's just if you're in the position of needing sponsorship, just remember that the visa regulations are changing soon and it gets complicated, but you can talk to the international department and you can always make a careers appointment to talk about things. I know it's tough. So it's been lovely talking to you. Unless there's any last questions, Hollie, is there anything else that you want to say? I would always listen to what Hollie says because she used to be in the position of taking on people like you. So she would be sitting at the fair thinking, has this person made a good impression on me? So I think it's really valuable.
I think the final thing from me, guys, is to remember that don't be afraid. Just because this isn't in person, just because it's online, it doesn't mean it's any different to actually coming and meeting us at the fair. You know, we're still interested in getting to know you guys as individuals as best we can virtually. And please make sure that you do any free reading or look at who's booked on for the fair, you know, beforehand, and make sure that you have a list of questions to ask employers as well. The one I always make sure, even now, that I have in my back pocket is why, you know, why do you still work for that company? What is it that makes them an employer of choice for you? Even if you don't have any other question, that's a good one to fall back on as a conversation starter.
That is a really good point, Hollie. There is just one tiny last question I'm going to take, and I probably can't take any more after this. Amy wants to know, do you have to send your CV to the companies and will they ask for them? What do you think?
So Amy, I think that's a very good question to ask the employer. So I've worked at a number of companies where we weren't able to accept CVs that were emailed through, but I know that there are a number of companies out there that are fine with CVs being emailed through. So I would say, to answer that question, probably ask them, say, is it okay if I send you over my CV? And then they'll be able to point you in the right direction.
Thank you very much, and do have a look at the CV resources. I'm just typing an answer to Musa about whether or not anybody can hear you when you're talking. Other employers can't hear you when you're in a stand, but if you are in an employer stand, just check whether or not you're in a private chat or whether you're in a group chat, because sometimes that can happen, that you might be in a group. What do you think, Holly? If you've got more time, I don't mind sitting here in case people want to leave and somebody's got a private question, that would be fine.
Yeah, I don't mind waiting until dead on the hour, but obviously, guys, if you don't have any more questions and you want to go, then please do feel free to drop off the call now. I will be sending around a link to the resources that Janie mentioned, and also the walkthrough video as well for you following this session. So yes, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully this has been helpful, and like I said, we will be posting the recording and we will make sure that we share through the social media channels where it is posted for you.
Lovely to see you all, and have a lovely time at the fair. See some of you there. Holly, I'm going to disappear for a minute so I can send you the slides so that you can send those to students, but I'm here and listening if you need me.
Perfect. I will keep an eye out for questions.